In the heart of New York City, where skyscrapers kissed the clouds and dreams seemed both within reach and impossibly distant, there lived a young woman named Mia Thompson. She wasn't your typical city girl who spent her days sipping lattes at trendy cafes or attending glamorous parties. Instead, Mia worked long hours as a waitress at an upscale restaurant called the Ivy Lounge. The job wasn't easy. Her feet ached after each shift, and she often found herself juggling demanding customers and endless orders, but it paid the bills. More importantly, it gave her time to chase her dream of becoming a writer. Every evening, as Mia moved between tables dressed in her crisp black and white uniform, she observed the lives of others unfolding before her eyes. There were couples laughing over candlelit dinners, families sharing stories across plates of gourmet food, and business people discussing deals over glasses of fine wine. Each moment felt like a scene from a movie, and Mia couldn't help but imagine the untold stories behind every face. These little glimpses into other people's worlds kept her going when life felt overwhelming. On one particularly busy Friday night, just as Mia was about to clock out, the hostess approached her with a nervous smile. "Mia," she whispered, "you're needed at table 7. It's Alexander Reed." The name sent a shiver down Mia's spine. Everyone in the city knew who Alexander Reed was, a self-made billionaire who had built a tech empire from scratch. His name was splashed across headlines and his face graced magazine covers. But what intrigued Mia most about him wasn't his wealth, it was the way he carried himself. Unlike many of the wealthy patrons who frequented the Ivy Lounge, Alexander had a reputation for being humble and kind. He treated everyone with respect, whether they were CEOs or janitors. Taking a deep breath, Mia grabbed her notepad and headed toward table 7. As she approached, she saw him sitting there with his family, his elegant mother Eleanor, his younger sister Lily, and his father Richard. They looked picture perfect, radiating sophistication and charm. Alexander stood out among them, not because of his tailored suit or perfectly styled hair, but because of the warmth in his eyes. When he noticed Mia approaching, he smiled gently, putting her at ease. "Good evening," Alexander said, his voice smooth yet inviting. "I hope we haven't caught you at a bad time." "Not at all," Mia replied, forcing a confident tone despite the butterflies fluttering in her stomach. "Welcome to the Ivy Lounge. Can I start you off with some drinks?" As Mia took their orders, she couldn't help but notice how different Alexander was from the other wealthy clients she served. While most expected perfection without so much, as a thank you, Alexander engaged her in conversation, asking about her day and complimenting the restaurant's ambiance. His genuine curiosity made her feel valued, something she hadn't experienced in a long time. Throughout the meal, Mia found herself glancing at Alexander more than she should have. There was something magnetic about him, an aura of quiet strength mixed with vulnerability. She wondered what it must be like to live under the constant scrutiny of the public eye, to have every decision dissected and analyzed. Yet despite his fame, Alexander didn't seem burdened by arrogance or entitlement. If anything, he appeared almost lonely. When dessert arrived, Mia carefully placed the plates on the table, ensuring everything was perfect. But as she leaned over to clear away the empty dishes, disaster struck. Her foot caught on the edge of the carpet, causing her to stumble forward. In a split second, she reached out to steady herself and accidentally brushed against Alexander. Before she could regain her balance, her lips grazed his cheek in a soft, fleeting kiss. The room fell silent. Time seemed to freeze as Mia pulled back, her face burning with embarrassment. She stammered an apology, certain that this would be the end of her career at the Ivy Lounge. To her astonishment, however, Alexander didn't react with anger or irritation. Instead, he chuckled softly, breaking the tension. "No harm done," he said with a reassuring smile. "Though I must admit that's the first time a waitress has kissed me on the job." His words elicited laughter from his family, easing the awkwardness of the situation. Still flustered, Mia hurried to finish clearing the table, avoiding eye contact with anyone. As the Reeds prepared to leave, Alexander handed her a generous tip along with a small folded note. Confused, Mia unfolded it once they were gone and read the message inside. You're braver than you think. Those 6 simple words lingered in Mia's mind long after her shift ended. What did Alexander mean? Was he mocking her clumsiness? Or was there something deeper behind his comment? Little did she know this chance encounter would mark the beginning of a journey neither of them could have anticipated. Over the next few days, Mia replayed the incident in her head, cringing at the memory of her blunder. Yet she couldn't deny the strange connection she'd felt with Alexander during those brief moments. Something about him stayed with her, haunting her thoughts in ways she couldn't explain. And unbeknownst to her, Alexander was thinking about her too, intrigued by the fiery spirit hidden beneath her shy exterior. Over the next few weeks, something unexpected began to happen. Alexander Reed, the billionaire who had accidentally received a kiss on the cheek from Mia, started showing up at the Ivy Lounge more often than usual. At first, Mia thought it was just a coincidence. Perhaps he enjoyed the restaurant's food or liked the atmosphere. But as the days passed, she noticed a pattern. Every time he came in, he specifically requested her as his server. At first, Mia felt uneasy about it. Was he here to mock her? To make fun of that embarrassing moment when she stumbled and kissed him? But each time they interacted, Alexander proved her fears wrong. He treated her with kindness, engaging her in conversations that went beyond small talk. He asked about her day, her dreams, and even her thoughts on random topics like favorite books or travel destinations. It wasn't long before Mia realized that Alexander wasn't visiting the restaurant for its menu. He was there because of her. Their interactions became a highlight of Mia's otherwise hectic workdays. Between serving other customers and rushing back and forth, she found herself looking forward to those brief moments when she could pause and chat with Alexander. There was an ease to their conversations that surprised her. Despite the vast differences in their lives, his world filled with private jets and boardroom meetings, hers filled with late-night shifts and budgeting struggles, they shared common ground. Both valued hard work, honesty, and a desire to make a difference in the world. One evening, as Mia cleared away Alexander's plate after dinner, he stopped her with a gentle question. "Do you ever get tired of this?" he asked, gesturing around the bustling restaurant. "Tired of what?" Mia replied, tilting her head in confusion. "This," Alexander said, his voice soft but sincere. "The constant rush, the pressure, to please everyone, the feeling that no matter how hard you try, someone will always find fault." Mia hesitated for a moment, caught off guard by his insight. Most people assumed waitressing was just a job, not realizing how much emotional labor went into it, but Alexander seemed to understand. Finally, she nodded. "Sometimes," she admitted. "But I remind myself why I'm doing it. This job pays my bills while I work toward my real dream." "And what's that?" Alexander asked, leaning forward, slightly, genuinely curious. "I want to be a writer," Mia said, her cheeks flushing as she spoke. She rarely shared this part of herself with anyone, fearing judgment or dismissal. "I've been working on a novel for years now. It's about finding courage in the face of adversity." Alexander smiled warmly. "That sounds incredible. You should keep going. Too many people give up on their dreams because life gets in the way. Don't let that happen to you." His words struck a chord deep within Mia. For so long she had doubted whether her dream was worth pursuing. Writing felt like such a distant goal compared to the immediate demands of paying rent and buying groceries. Yet, hearing Alexander encourage her reignited a spark of hope inside her. Maybe she could achieve her dream someday. As their bond grew stronger, Mia began to see a side of Alexander that few others did. Beneath the polished exterior of a successful businessman lay a man burdened by expectations. During one conversation, he opened up about the pressures of running a company and maintaining his family's legacy. "It's not all glamour and success," he confessed. "Sometimes it feels like I'm living someone else's life instead of my own." Mia listened intently, offering words of comfort without judgment. In turn, Alexander learned more about Mia's past. She told him about growing up in a middle-class family that had fallen on hard times after her father's business failed. Her parents had worked tirelessly to provide for her and her siblings, teaching her the value of resilience and determination. Though money had been tight, Mia cherished the lessons she'd learned during those difficult years. They shaped who she was today. Despite their growing connection, Mia couldn't shake the nagging feeling that she didn't belong in Alexander's world. Every time she served him, she was reminded of the stark contrast between their lives. She wore a borrowed uniform, while he donned custom-tailored suits. She struggled to afford subway fares, while he traveled in chauffeured cars. How could someone like her ever fit into his universe? Her doubts intensified one evening when Alexander invited her to join him and his family at a charity gala. "I'd love for you to come," he said earnestly. "It'll be fun, I promise." Mia froze, unsure how to respond. Attending a high-profile event with New York's elite sounded terrifying. What would people think? Would they judge her for being out of place? Sensing her hesitation, Alexander reassured her. "You don't have to decide right now," he said. "Just think about it." That night, Mia lay awake, replaying the invitation in her mind. Part of her wanted to say yes, to step outside her comfort zone and experience something new, but another part of her feared rejection and ridicule. Eventually, curiosity won over fear. She accepted the invitation, borrowing a simple yet elegant gown from a friend and practicing confident smiles in the mirror until she felt ready. The night of the gala arrived, and Mia stepped into a world unlike anything she'd ever known. The venue was breathtaking. A grand ballroom adorned with crystal chandeliers and overflowing floral arrangements. Guests mingled in designer gowns and tuxedos, sipping champagne and discussing philanthropy. As Mia entered on Alexander's arm, whispers rippled through the crowd. Some guests stared openly, while others whispered behind raised hands. Alexander's family, particularly his mother Eleanor, watched Mia with skeptical eyes. Eleanor, a poised woman with silver-streaked hair and a regal demeanor, made no effort to hide her disapproval. Throughout the evening, she bombarded Mia with thinly veiled questions about her background and intentions. "So, Mia," Eleanor said sweetly, though her tone carried an edge, "how exactly did you and Alexander meet?" Caught off guard, Mia stammered through her response, explaining that they had met at the Ivy Lounge. Eleanor raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. "Fascinating," she murmured, turning away to join another group of guests. Despite the tension, Alexander remained steadfast by Mia's side. He introduced her to friends and colleagues, speaking highly of her intelligence and kindness. His unwavering support gave Mia the strength to endure the scrutiny. Still, she couldn't help but feel like an outsider looking in. As the night wore on, the atmosphere shifted. The lights dimmed, and a live band began playing soft melodies. Couples took to the dance floor, swaying under twinkling fairy lights. Watching them, Mia felt a pang of longing. She had never been one for fancy events or romantic gestures, but something about the scene stirred her heart. Sensing her mood, Alexander approached her. "Would you like to dance?" he asked, extending his hand. Mia hesitated, glancing around at the sea of elegantly dressed dancers. "Are you sure?" she asked nervously. "I might step on your toes." Alexander chuckled. "I think I can handle it." With a deep breath, Mia placed her hand in his, allowing him to lead her onto the floor. As they danced, the rest of the room faded away. For a moment, it was just the two of them moving together in perfect harmony. Overwhelmed by emotion, Mia looked into Alexander's eyes and saw something she hadn't dared to hope for: genuine affection. In that instant, she realized she couldn't hold back any longer. Without thinking, she leaned in and kissed him. Not on the cheek this time, but fully on the lips. The music seemed to stop. The room fell silent. All eyes turned to them, and for a heartbeat, time stood still. The moment Mia's lips met Alexander's, the world around them seemed to freeze. The soft hum of conversation, the clinking of glasses, and the gentle sway of dancers all came to an abrupt halt. Every pair of eyes in the grand ballroom turned toward them, wide with shock or curiosity. For a split second, Mia felt as if she were standing on a stage under harsh spotlights, her every move scrutinized by an audience that didn't understand her. Her heart raced, and her cheeks burned, with a mix of embarrassment and defiance. Alexander, however, didn't pull away. Instead, he stood there holding her gaze, his expression unreadable. There was no anger, no discomfort, just a quiet intensity that made Mia wonder what he was thinking. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, he smiled, his hand still resting lightly on hers. That single gesture sent a wave of relief through Mia, but it did little to ease the tension rippling through the room. Eleanor Reed, Alexander's mother, was the first to break the silence. With a sharp intake of breath, she stepped forward, her heels clicking loudly against the marble floor. "Alexander," she said, her voice icy yet controlled. "May I speak with you privately?" Alexander nodded, though his eyes never left Mia's. "Of course, Mother," he replied calmly. Turning to Mia, he added softly, "I'll be right back." As Alexander followed his mother out of the ballroom, whispers erupted among the guests. Some murmured disapprovingly about the inappropriate display, while others speculated about who Mia really was and why Alexander had brought her to such a prestigious event. A few even sneered openly, their disdain evident in the way they avoided looking at her altogether. Mia felt like shrinking into herself, wishing the polished floor would swallow her whole. She excused herself from the crowd and slipped outside, onto the terrace, desperate for fresh air. The cool breeze brushed against her skin, offering a small measure of comfort, as she leaned against the railing and stared out at the glittering city skyline. How could she have been so reckless? What had possessed her to kiss him in front of everyone? Her thoughts spiraled downward until she heard footsteps behind her. It was Lily, Alexander's younger sister. Unlike Eleanor, Lily approached with warmth and curiosity rather than judgment. "Hey," she said gently, joining Mia at the railing. "Mind if I keep you company?" Mia hesitated before nodding. "Sure." For a while, neither of them spoke. They simply stood side by side, watching, the distant lights flicker like stars. Finally, Lily broke the silence. "You know, my brother doesn't bring just anyone to these events. In fact, I can't remember the last time he showed interest in someone like this." Mia glanced at her, surprised. "What do you mean?" Lily shrugged. "Most people think Alex is this untouchable billionaire who has everything figured out. But the truth is, he's always been different. He cares more about people than profits, even if it means going against what our family expects. And tonight, when I saw how he looked at you..." She trailed off, smiling faintly. "Let's just say I've never seen him look at anyone like that before." Mia's chest tightened. Part of her wanted to believe Lily's words, but another part couldn't shake the feeling that she didn't belong in Alexander's life. "Your mom doesn't seem to agree," she muttered bitterly. Lily sighed. "Mom's old school. She believes in tradition and status, and she worries about how things will look to outsiders. But don't let her intimidate you. If Alex chose to bring you here, then you must mean something to him. That's not something he does lightly." Before Mia could respond, the door to the terrace opened, and Alexander stepped out. His expression was calm but resolute, and his eyes softened the moment they landed on Mia. "Can we talk?" he asked, his tone leaving no room for refusal. Mia nodded, following him to a quieter corner of the terrace. When they were alone, Alexander took a deep breath. "Mia, I need to apologize for my family for the way they treated you tonight. None of that was okay." "It's fine," Mia said quickly, though her voice wavered. "I knew coming here was a bad idea. I don't fit into your world, Alexander. Maybe this was all a mistake." "No," Alexander interrupted firmly. "It wasn't a mistake. You kissed me because you felt something, and I won't let you dismiss that. Yes, my family has opinions, but their opinions don't define us. What matters is how we feel about each other." His words caught Mia off guard. She had expected defensiveness or hesitation, not this unwavering certainty. "But your mom..." "My mom will come around," Alexander said with a dismissive wave. "She's protective of me, but she'll see that you're exactly what I need. Someone real. Someone who sees past the money and titles." Tears pricked at the corners of Mia's eyes. You make it sound so simple. It doesn't have to be complicated, Alexander replied, reaching out to take her hands in. Sherry, tell me why you kissed me, Mia. Be honest. Mia swallowed hard, searching for the courage to speak her truth. Because I care about you, she admitted finally. More than I should, probably. But being around you makes me feel like I'm enough, like I don't have to pretend to be someone I'm not. And tonight, when we were dancing, I realized I couldn't hold back anymore. I wanted to show you how I feel. Alexander's grip on her hands tightened ever so slightly. Thank you for telling me that, he said softly. And for the record, I feel the same way about you. They stood there for a moment, bathed in the glow of the city lights, their connection stronger than ever. But the evening wasn't over, yet. As they returned to the ballroom, they found Eleanor waiting for them, her arms crossed and her expression unreadable. Alexander, she began, her voice measured but firm. We need to settle this now. Settle what? Alexander asked, his tone equally steady. I've already told you, Mom, Mia isn't going anywhere. She's important to me. Eleanor's jaw tightened, and for a moment Mia thought she might explode with frustration. But instead she turned her attention to Mia. If my son is willing to stand by you despite everything, then perhaps I owe you the chance to explain yourself. Mia blinked, taken aback by the sudden shift. Explain myself? Yes. Eleanor said curtly. Who are you really? Why are you here with my son? Are you after his money, his name, or is there something else driving you? The questions hit Mia like a punch to the gut. She clenched her fists, summoning every ounce of strength she had. I'm not here for his money, she said firmly. And I'm certainly not here because of his last name. I'm here because Alexander is kind, genuine, and sees value in people beyond their bank accounts. He's shown me respect and understanding in ways most people haven't. And yes, maybe I don't come from the same world as you, but that doesn't make me any less deserving of happiness or love. Her words hung in the air, raw and unfiltered. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then, to everyone's surprise, Eleanor's stern expression softened. Very well, she said quietly. If that's truly how you feel, then I suppose I have no choice but to trust my son's judgment. Though far from a full endorsement, Eleanor's reluctant acceptance marked a turning point. The rest of the evening passed in relative peace, with Alexander staying close to Mia and shielding her from further scrutiny. By the time they left the gala, hand in hand, Mia felt a renewed sense of hope, not just for her relationship with Alexander, but for the possibility that love could transcend even the deepest divides. The ride back to Alexander's penthouse apartment was quiet but charged with emotion. Neither Mia nor Alexander spoke much during the car ride, though their hands remained intertwined, a silent reassurance that they were in this together. The weight of the evening hung heavily between them, the whispers, the judgmental stares, the confrontation with Eleanor. But there was also an unspoken understanding that they had crossed a threshold. What had started as a chance encounter at the Ivy Lounge had evolved into something deeper, something neither of them could ignore. When they arrived at Alexander's apartment, a sleek modern space perched high above the city, Mia hesitated before stepping inside. She felt out of place amidst the luxurious furnishings and floor-to-ceiling windows that offered breathtaking views of Manhattan's skyline. Everything about the apartment screamed wealth and privilege. Two things Mia had spent most of her life avoiding or feeling excluded from. Yet as she looked around, she realized it wasn't the opulence that intimidated her. It was the fear of being judged, of not measuring up to the expectations of Alexander's world. Sensing her unease, Alexander guided her to the balcony, where soft string lights twinkled against the night sky. Let's sit for a bit, he suggested gently, pulling out a chair for her. As they settled down, he poured them each a glass of water, his movements calm and deliberate. For a while, they simply sat in silence, letting the cool breeze wash over them. Finally, Alexander broke. The quiet, Mia, I know tonight was overwhelming for you, and I'm sorry if my family made you feel like you didn't belong, because the truth is, you do belong. You belong with me." Mia's throat tightened as tears welled up in her eyes. She wanted to believe him, but the doubts lingered. "It's not just your family," she admitted softly. "It's everything. Your world. It's so different from mine. Sometimes I wonder if I'm fooling myself, thinking we can make this work." Alexander reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "You're not fooling yourself, Mia. This isn't about worlds colliding or trying to fit into some mold. It's about two people who see each other for who they really are. That's what matters." His words were comforting, but Mia knew she couldn't keep hiding behind vague reassurances. If they were going to move forward, she needed to be honest, with herself and with him. Taking a deep breath, she began to speak. "When I was younger," she started, her voice trembling slightly, "my dad owned a small business. He worked hard day and night to provide for our family. We weren't rich, but we were happy. Then one day, everything changed. He lost everything. His company, our house, our savings, all because of bad investments and a partner who betrayed him. Overnight, we went from having enough to struggling to put food on the table." She paused, collecting her thoughts. "I remember how ashamed he felt, how he blamed himself for failing us. But you know what? My mom never stopped loving him. She reminded him every single day that his worth wasn't tied to his bank account. That lesson stuck with me. It taught me to value people for who they are, not what they have." Tears streamed down Mia's face now, but she didn't try to wipe them away. "That's why I kissed you that first night," she continued. "Not because I tripped or got nervous, but because in that moment, you reminded me of my dad before. Everything fell apart. You reminded me of someone who works hard, cares deeply, and doesn't let success define them. When I kissed you tonight at the gala, it wasn't reckless or impulsive. It was because I saw the same goodness in you, and I wanted you to know how much you mean to me." Alexander listened intently, his expression softening with every word. By the time Mia finished speaking, his own eyes glistened with unshed tears. Without saying a word, he stood up and pulled her into a tight embrace. They stayed like that for several minutes, holding on to each other as if afraid to let go. "You have no idea how much your words mean to me," Alexander said finally, his voice thick with emotion. "I've spent my entire life trying to prove myself to my parents, to society, to everyone who expects perfection from me. But none of that matters if I can't be true to who I am. And being with you, it reminds me of why I started all of this in the first place, not for money or power, but to create something meaningful." He pulled back slightly, cupping her face in his hands. "Mia, you don't need to change for me or anyone else. You're already more than enough. Don't ever doubt that." For the first time since meeting Alexander, Mia felt truly seen. His acceptance of her past, her struggles, and her fears gave her the courage to embrace the future without reservation. Together, they talked late into the night, sharing stories about their childhoods, their dreams, and the moments that had shaped them into the people they were today. With each passing hour, the barriers between their worlds seemed to fade, replaced by a bond built on trust and vulnerability. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a golden glow over the apartment. As Mia sipped coffee on the balcony, wrapped in a blanket, Alexander joined her with a thoughtful expression. "I've been thinking," he said, sitting down beside her, "about us, about where we go from here." Mia raised an eyebrow, curious. And I think it's time I made some changes," he replied firmly. "My family may have accepted you last night, but I know they'll always question whether I'm making the right choice. Honestly, I'm tired of living under their microscope. I want to focus on what truly matters, our foundation, helping others, and building a life with you." Mia blinked in surprise. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm stepping down as CEO of my company," Alexander explained. "I'll still be involved, but I want to dedicate more time to philanthropy and supporting causes we both care about, starting with helping aspiring writers and entrepreneurs like you." Mia stared at him, speechless. Stepping down from such a powerful position was a monumental decision, one that would undoubtedly raise eyebrows in the business world. Yet, looking into Alexander's eyes, she saw nothing but conviction. This wasn't about running away from responsibility. It was about choosing a path that aligned with his values. "Are you sure?" she asked cautiously. "This is your legacy we're talking about." "It's not just my legacy anymore," Alexander said with a smile. "It's ours. And I want to build something that reflects who we are, not just as individuals but as partners." Overwhelmed by his selflessness, Mia leaned in and kissed him gently. "Thank you," she whispered, "for believing in me, for seeing me, for choosing us." As the days turned into weeks, Alexander kept his promise. He announced his decision to step down as CEO, citing a desire to focus on giving back to the community. While the media buzzed with speculation, those closest to him, including Lily and eventually even Eleanor, came to respect his choice. Together, Alexander and Mia founded a nonprofit organization aimed at empowering underprivileged artists and entrepreneurs, providing them with resources, mentorship, and funding to pursue their dreams. Through it all, their love only grew stronger. Though challenges remained, navigating societal expectations, balancing their differing backgrounds, they faced each obstacle as a team. And in doing so, they proved that love isn't about finding someone perfect, it's about finding someone who inspires you to become the best version of yourself. Their journey was far from over, but one thing was certain: whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. Months turned into years, and the lives of Mia Thompson and Alexander Reed intertwined in ways neither of them could have imagined when they first met. What began as a chance encounter at the Ivy Lounge had blossomed into a partnership that transcended wealth, status, and societal expectations. Their journey wasn't without its challenges. There were moments of doubt, misunderstandings, and external pressures. But through it all, their bond only grew stronger. The nonprofit organization they founded together became a beacon of hope for countless individuals striving to overcome adversity. Named Courage and Compassion, the foundation provided grants, mentorship programs, and creative workshops for aspiring artists, writers, and entrepreneurs from disadvantaged backgrounds. It was inspired by Mia's own struggles and dreams, as well as Alexander's desire to use his resources for meaningful change. Together, they traveled across the country, meeting beneficiaries, listening to their stories, and celebrating their successes. Seeing the impact they were making gave both Mia and Alexander a profound sense of fulfillment, a reminder that true success wasn't measured in dollars, but in the lives they touched. As Courage and Compassion gained recognition, so did Mia. Her debut novel, Through the Cracks, was published to critical acclaim. The book, loosely based on her experiences growing up amid financial hardship and finding love against all odds, resonated deeply with readers. Bookstores hosted packed events where fans lined up for hours just to meet her. Journalists hailed her as a voice of resilience and authenticity, and literary awards soon followed. For Mia, this achievement was more than personal. It was proof that perseverance could turn even the wildest dreams into reality. On the night of her book launch, the Ivy Lounge, the very place where her story with Alexander had begun, was transformed into a celebration venue. Friends, family, colleagues, and supporters filled the space, their laughter and applause echoing off the walls. Dressed in a stunning emerald green dress, Mia stood at the center of it all, clutching a copy of her novel in trembling hands. As she looked out at the crowd, her eyes landed on Alexander, who stood near the back, beaming with pride. He caught her gaze and mouthed three simple words: "I'm so proud." Overcome with emotion, Mia took a moment to compose herself before addressing the audience. "When I started writing this book," she began, her voice steady despite the tears threatening to spill, "I never imagined it would lead me here. But tonight isn't just about me. It's about everyone who has ever dared to dream, no matter how impossible those dreams seemed. If my story can inspire even one person to keep going, then every late night, every rejection letter, every moment of self-doubt will have been worth it." Her speech earned a standing ovation, and as she stepped down from the podium, Alexander wrapped her in a tight embrace. "You did it," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "You proved to the world what I've known all along. You're extraordinary." But their journey didn't stop there. Inspired by Mia's success, Alexander continued to push boundaries in his own life. After stepping down as CEO, he threw himself fully into philanthropy, using his influence to advocate for systemic changes that addressed inequality and promoted access to education and opportunities. His decision initially shocked the business community, but over time, people came to admire his commitment to leaving a lasting legacy rooted in kindness rather than profit margins. Their relationship also evolved in beautiful ways. They moved into a cozy brownstone in Brooklyn, far removed from the glitz and glamour of Manhattan penthouses. The house was filled with books, art, and memories of their travels together. On weekends, they cooked meals side by side, laughed over old photographs, and dreamed about the future. Though their lives were busy, they made it a point to prioritize each other, cherishing the quiet moments as much as the grand ones. Eleanor Reed, once a fierce critic of Mia, underwent a transformation of her own. Watching her son find happiness with someone who challenged him to be better softened her heart. Over time, she grew to appreciate Mia not just as Alexander's partner, but as a remarkable woman in her own right. During holiday gatherings, Eleanor often pulled Mia aside to ask about her latest projects or share stories about her own youth. Their bond, though slow to develop, became a testament to the power of understanding and acceptance. One crisp autumn afternoon, Alexander surprised Mia with a trip to Central Park. They strolled hand in hand beneath golden leaves, reminiscing about everything they'd been through. When they reached Bow Bridge, the iconic spot where countless romances had unfolded in movies, Alexander stopped and turned to face her. In his eyes, Mia saw a mix of excitement and nervousness that made her heart skip a beat. "Mia," he said, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "You've given me more than I ever thought possible. You've shown me what it means to live authentically, to love fearlessly, and to believe in something greater than myself. I want to spend the rest of my life building a future with you, one filled with courage, compassion, and endless adventures. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down Mia's face as she nodded, unable to speak through the lump in her throat. Slipping the ring onto her finger, Alexander kissed her tenderly, sealing their promise to each other. Around them, strangers clapped and cheered, adding to the magic of the moment. Their wedding, held a year later, was intimate yet unforgettable. Surrounded by loved ones under a canopy of twinkling lights, they exchanged vows that spoke of gratitude, growth, and unwavering support. As they danced their first dance as husband and wife, Mia rested her head against Alexander's chest, feeling an overwhelming sense of peace. She knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, as equals, as partners, as soulmates. Years later, as they sat on the porch of their home watching the sunset, Mia reflected on how far they'd come. From a clumsy kiss at a restaurant to building a life rooted in love and purpose, their story was a testament to the idea that true connection transcends superficial differences. Love, she realized, wasn't about perfection. It was about choosing someone who inspires you to be brave, who sees your flaws and loves you anyway, and who walks beside you through every twist and turn. And so, their lives became a living reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary journeys begin with the simplest of moments, a shared smile, a heartfelt conversation, or yes, even an accidental kiss.